Hello and welcome to the Dragon's Lair podcast in association with Riverside Sports Bar, the home of sports fans in Newport. I'm Jamie and joining me for this one is Gavin Thomas. Gavin, how are we?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm very well.
You had a very good win on the weekend playing rugby, didn't you? Do you want to tell us
We
about that?
did. Well, yeah, we won 78-12 against Lewis. Kind of pulling back the curtain a little bit. They turned up with 9 players and we lent them free and played 12 aside. But in the first half, I played for the opposition and we had a pile of kids who play like uni boys back for the weekend playing for us. So it was a lot more mobile, but I tell you what, playing 12 aside when you're a 51-year-old tight five forward is not the game to be playing.
But it's a win, Gav, and you
Yeah.
got to be pleased with that.
Worst point about it, we broke through towards the end. The second half, we evened the sides up and we played with 11 and because we were 66-0 up at half time. And our 8 has broken through.
Yeah.
And he's got ankle tapped and he's just turning to throw the ball to me and I've got a clear line. I'm in under the post. And then he realizes how close he is to the line, looks at me, and then just turns around and taps it down.
Oh, fair play. Oh dear. Right, okay. So before we get into it, remember I talked about reviews on the last podcast? We're getting good reviews. We've had a couple more very nice reviews. This one is from a Cardiff supporter, would you believe? Because, it's not just Dragons supporters that listen to us. We do get supporters of other regions.
A friend of mine, Phil Lewis, who's a Scarlets fan, listens every week.
Exactly. I don't know why they do, but they do. And we thank them for it, in fairness. So, yeah, this comes from Ben, who's a Cardiff fan. And he says, I'm a Cardiff fan, but the Dragons are a team that I really want to improve. And you guys do a great job with your analysis, interviews, etc. So I will continue to listen, he says. Keep up the good work, chaps. Thank you very much, Ben. Even though you're a Cardiff supporter, we really do appreciate those kinds of words. So, yeah, thank you very much. And then this one then from Cardiff Exile says, as someone with only a passive interest in the fortune of the Dragons, I find this pod a really good way to keep on top of the latest goings on at Ronnie Parade. The perfect partner pod to the 1912's the 1912 Exiles analysis of Newport County AFC. So I think this has come from one of the guys at the 1912 Exiles pod.
Yes.
Out of there, it clearly has. And
yes.
he's praising us, but also it's like, yeah, let's give our pod a mention.
It's good pod, though.
Let's give our pod a plug.
I do like the 1912 pod.
Yeah, they're nice guys, in fairness. So I met them up in Wimbledon away. They are really nice. And I was at Ronnie Parade on Saturday watching County, Bradford, 0-0. It's funny because I would have taken a point beforehand, and I said to my wife, I'm actually happy with a point because Bradford were third. So they're promotion chasing. I'd be happy with a point. We did get a point, but I came away slightly disappointed because they were down to 10 men. They had a man sent off in the first half. And we had opportunities, but I don't know, it's weird, isn't it? When you get your expectations, like, yeah, I'll settle for a point. And when you do actually get a point, after the game, it's a little bit,
Whenever I watch County play, I can't quite work out what they're trying to do. I can see they're trying to play lots of football, but then they'll just wallop it forward as well, aimlessly sometimes as well. It's an interesting side to watch at the minute.
Yeah, they're trying to play a more passing brand of football under Nelson Jardine. I still don't know. It's a bit like Philo, really. I still don't know if he's the right guy for the head coach job, if I'm being brutally honest. But 4 wins and a draw, can't fault it. So
it looks like we're staying away from relegation, which is pretty much all you want, and
yeah, we're well ahead now with the relegation zone, thankfully. So this is not a Newport County pod. However, if you do want to listen to a Newport County pod, then we do highly recommend the 1912 Exiles. They're a good bunch of boys and yeah, well worth listening to if you've got a passing interest in football and Newport County. So thank you for those reviews. We appreciate your feedback as always. Now, if you leave, you know the rules by now. If you leave us a 5-star review, you will get a mention on the pod. We don't want 4 stars. We don't want 3. We don't want 2. We certainly don't want 1. It has to be 5. Those are the rules I've just made up. So get in touch and you will get a shout out on the pod. So thank you to Ben and the 1912 Exiles for their kind reviews. Let's move on to news then. Really good news, actually. Ashton Hewitt. So he's been making his return to the field, playing for Newport RFC. Scored a hat-trick in the second game back for Newport as they beat Carmarthen 47-26. Really good news, Gav, isn't it? And hopefully we'll see him in a Dragons jersey soon.
Yeah, absolutely. He's he is a great player, and we talked about him on the pod before, and having him back in the side would be better for us. There's no doubt about that. But he needs to be fit, doesn't he?
Yeah. Do you think VOTT is doing the right thing though by giving him sort of more game time in the SRC
Yeah,
than bringing him straight back?
yeah. I think it's right to do. Just give him a bit of space. He did it with Funaki as well, who I understand is injured again.
He's injured. That hasn't quite worked out as planned.
No,
No. But yeah, it's just really good news. It's great to see Ashton firing like that, and hopefully we will see him back in a Dragons jersey very soon. Let's talk about some transfer news then. The rumour mill has been going, Garth, about the Dragons. Ever since at the Q&A, we've announced that we signed fine players, marquee players. Welsh Rugby Twitter's been going into overdrive. Certain people with agendas having their say on our signing.
CF postcodes.
Yeah, it's funny because you think they talk more about their own teams rather than ours, wouldn't you? But no, clearly not. Some people would rather talk about Dragons and focus on their own teams. But there you go. Rugby Pass are reporting that Dragons are signing 32-year-old Thomas Young from Cardiff on a 3-year deal. So here's where I stood with it. On the one hand, I thought fantastic news. Thomas Young is a very good player.
Yeah,
He is
very
a
much so.
very, very good player. He's no spring chicken at 32. On a 3-year deal, I'm slightly skeptical. My understanding is on the 3rd year, the terms are going to be slightly less than the first 2 years, which is good news, I think. I think that's sensible. But bringing him in, I think it's a bit of a coup, because when you consider the report the Rugby Pass wrote, they said that he was in high demand from a lot of English Premiership clubs. He's a good player, so it makes total sense. He's going to be in demand. But we have signed him from Cardiff, not official. That's not official, but those are the murmurings that we have signed him from Cardiff. Gav, how do you feel about that? So we know that we're losing Tane. That's a blow. We've spoken about that. But we are getting Thomas Young, who is older, admittedly. But I would argue, and you can have your opinion, I think Thomas Young is actually a better player than Tane, even though he is on the wrong side of 30. What are your thoughts of it?
Different players. Thomas Young's a very good player. Tayner's a very good player. They're different kind of back row players. I think Thomas Young will bring a huge amount of balance to our back row, because we've got Wayno, who's a proper 8. We've got Shane Lewis-Hughes, who's a proper 6. And you had Thomas Young, who's a proper 7. A fetcher and carrier, will get at the breakdown, will slow opposition ball down, all the things a team doesn't do.
Yeah.
Then that's going to bring value to the side.
We could definitely get 2 good years out of him, I feel.
Yeah.
You're not past it at 32, 33, but it's just that in our 3rd year, when he will be 36. The thing is, when he links up with the Dragons, he will be 33 because he turns 33 in May. That's the thing. But that's not to say that, he won't have any impact here at all. But I'm just very wary about signing players on a 3-year deal. I always use the example of Richard Ibbard. Do you remember when we signed him from Gloucester? I think he was 34 at the time. And I remember thinking, why are we signing him on 3 years? The first 2 years, Hibbard was excellent. I thought he was really good for us. The 3rd year, though, that's when he showed age and wear and tear. And it did make me think this is why we should have signed him on a 2-year deal. But whether that'll be the case with Thomas Young, I don't know. But it's interesting, isn't it? Tane Basham is a divisive player amongst rugby fans. There are some people like myself who really rate him and have always stuck up for him, especially on social media when supporters of other regions have been slagging him off, saying he's a penalty machine and all this stuff, which isn't true, actually. Yes, he has dull moments, but he doesn't give away penalties as much as some people say. But Thomas Young, pretty much everyone in Welsh Rugby will agree, is a very good player. He's not divisive. Everyone knows his quality. And he will add some experience as well, Gav. We are a young team. I'm not making excuses, but this is on the whole a pretty young team. So he will add a bit of experience as well, won't he?
Yeah, and he is a good player. And this is the issue. As we said last week when Gareth was on as well, we can't just keep playing kids and hoping they're going to blood instantly. It's a Welsh problem as well. you can play kids as long as you've got some experienced heads around them. And I think having someone like Thomas Young is going to benefit Ryan Woodman massively.
Yeah, we just haven't got many turnover merchants, have we? Any fetchers at the breakdown, and he
No,
certainly is that. And he's pacey as well. He's
yeah.
very quick, Thomas Young.
Keddy tries it, but that's not his natural thing. Keddy is more of a carrier and lifter rather than
When
a
he played for
fetcher.
Vale, I'm sure I remember Keddy played eight, didn't he? When he was
He
coming through the
did,
system, he was a number
yeah,
eight, wasn't he,
yeah. He
Gaff?
was an
Yeah,
eight at Ebervale, yeah,
yeah.
and a very dynamic eight, picking up from the base of the scrum, very powerful runner. And he's become a seven almost by accident, and I don't think that's naturally where he is best suited.
Mm,
Because it's a
fair enough.
specialist position, isn't it? And you look at Ireland, and I'm not comparing us to Ireland, but I was watching the Scotland game against Ireland last week, and I realised why Ireland are so good. Yeah, they're well coached, they play well. What they do, they're so disruptive at the breakdown.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what they're doing at the breakdown, and 12s, 13s, whoever's near us does something to slow that ball down. And if you compare, and I'm jumping ahead a bit, if you think about how we were today, we didn't slow the ball down ever for Glasgow.
No, there was a couple of turnovers, wasn't there? But
Yeah,
we lacked that fetcher at the breakdown, and
yeah.
that's something that we've spoken about all season. This is where we have missed Harry Keddy because I do believe he is really good at the breakdown. I know you say that's not his natural game, but he is very good.
He's disruptive.
Yeah.
He's not like a Sam Warburton or a Tommy Raffel, but he's disruptive at the breakdown. He gets it. He gets his hands in. He gets his head in, and he slows the ball down.
Yeah. And he's been missed. We could really do with Keddy back, actually.
Yeah,
So the rumour mill, as I've said earlier, it's been in full flow. There's a lot of names being bandied around on the internet. Names I'm seeing, I don't know if you've seen them as well, Gav, is, well, we've spoken about this on the pod previously. Tina Stabia is a name that keeps cropping up.
yeah. I've
I
seen him.
presume we've signed him. Like I said, I don't know for definite. This could be rumours, but his name keeps coming up in Dragons circles. Another name I've heard that we've signed, allegedly, and I stress allegedly, is Wyn Jones from Harlequins, who, let's not forget, is a British nice line prop,
Yeah.
who struggled at the Scarlets, let's be honest, particularly in his last year or so. But I have been reliably informed that since he's moved to Harlequins, he's done pretty well.
He
And
has,
I
yeah.
was told that he's much fitter now than he has been previously. How do you feel about that, Wyn Jones?
I like Wyn Jones.
Mm,
I've always liked Wyn Jones as a player because he's the right balance for me of he can get around the park a bit, but he's good scrummager, and he's another disruptive player at the breakdown. The last time Wales were successful, uh, probably successful when we had him and Thomas Francis, both good scrummagers, but both really disruptive at the breakdown, both slowing that ball down, which is the key to the modern game.
yeah. I think if we signed him from the Scarlets, I don't think it would have gone well for us. But I think signing him from Quins, if his fitness has improved,
Yeah,
then I think that's pretty good. He's made 15 appearances so far, made 6 starts for Quins. So, he has been in
yeah,
the
I've seen.
picture, he has been making regular appearances for him. It's not like he's third or fourth down the pecking order, is it?
So in terms of Wyn Jones at Quins, I watch Quins occasionally, mainly on TV now. I haven't had much chance to get to see him this season, but he's done well, and I've got friends who are Quins fans, and they're
Yeah.
saying he's doing well there as well. Saying
Yeah.
that he's a good scrummager and all the things we know anyway.
Yeah. That's good news, isn't it? I'd be happy with that. 32, that's good years for a prop, in my opinion. So
Mm.
good experience. And if he is fitter than what he has been previously, then that's a bonus. So I'm not against that. Another name that keeps cropping up, and we spoke about in our last pod. I know that you're not entirely happy with this. I know a lot of Dragon supporters ain't particularly thrilled with this. Is Seb Davis. But here's the thing with Seb Davis, right? I don't think he's as bad as people keep saying. I do think that he got a lot of flack when he played for Wales and he was being picked at eight. Do you remember when Gatland, for
Oh
some
yeah.
crazy reason, kept picking Seb at eight? And I think that made him a target of criticism, and it wasn't necessarily his fault. But I think he's a decent lock. And let's be honest, Gav, I try not to name names on this podcast, as you know, but I think he's better than at least two, maybe three of our locks that we have at the moment at the Dragon.
Plus, Seb Davis would, if we do like the kind of depth chart thing, Seb Davis would be 2 or 3 on the depth chart for second row for us.
Yeah. I think him and Ben Carter, that would be decent second row pairing.
Yeah,
I really do. You know? I don't know who backs him up then, whether it's Screech or Cummins, if he's ever fit again, who knows?
it's,
But I think he is an upgrade on some of the locks we have there.
well, if it kind of Seb Davis and Ben Carter would probably be your first choice, and then Screech and George Knott would probably be your second pairing.
If George Knott is still with us, of course.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Because we don't know what's happening here, do we? I think there's some uncertainty around George Knott. But those are the names so far that's been mentioned. And okay, they're not world beaters. They're not hugely exciting. But what I would say to people is when you're the worst team in league, what are you expecting? It's a challenge, isn't it? When you're down at the bottom to attract really good players. And I think to be fair to the Dragons, this is probably the best kind of players that we can pick up right now. And if that means that we have to pay a little bit more or offer another, an extended deal, then so be it, because that's what we have to do when you're at the bottom.
I've watched a lot of rugby league this weekend for reasons I don't quite understand because it's not a sport I generally like watching. But there might be there's value in for me looking in rugby league now. Clearly, I wouldn't look at anyone else outside of wingers, but they can
No.
all play on the wing in rugby league anyway because that's essentially all they do. They don't have to do anything properly. But I've watched a lot of games this week, and you're thinking, why don't we look at some of these guys? Because they're not going to be on lots of money, and see if we can convince. Because they're big, physical, hard running outside backs. It's not going to hurt us having that in the side,
No, it's
and
not. And
you might uncover a gem.
it would be nice to have like a fully fit Regan Grace, wouldn't there? I know he's
Yeah,
at Cardiff now, but imagine if he was in the Dragons and he was fully fit. That would add another dimension.
I was watching the NRL All Stars game, which was Indigenous All Stars against Maori All Stars, and there's a guy playing on the wing for the Indigenous All Stars who's about 19. And he just looked. I just watched him thinking, "Oh, that's the kind of player we could do with." He was 19. He was about 6'3". He was about 105 kilos, and would probably be the second or third fastest player at the Dragons if he came there.
Do you remember Dragons signed a rugby league player when Bernard Jackman was coach? This will be a blast of the past for Dragon supporters. Do you remember a chap called Calvin Wellington?
I do indeed, yes.
So we signed him from, who did we sign him from? I think it was from, was it Workington Town or it might have been St. Helens actually. I'm just looking at this club that he's played for. I think it was either St. Helens or Workington Town. But that did not go well at
No,
all. It really didn't go well. So yeah, I see what you're saying, but I think there is always a risk, isn't there, with rugby league players?
I think you've got to pick the right ones, haven't you? But
Yeah,
but everyone's saying, "Oh, our selection pool is really narrow," so you've got to make it bigger, haven't you?
yeah. No, it's a fair point. It's a fair point. So,
Look at rugby league. Look at French Pro 2.
well, that's it. I think we should think outside the box. I think we should be looking at Pro D2. I think we should be looking at Curry Cup as well, Gav. I think
Yeah,
we should be
absolutely.
scouring South Africa and looking at these. They're not going to be big names, but we should be looking at these tight head props.
Yeah.
They cut their cloth in the Curry Cup, but there's bound to be some gems there, isn't there? Some gnarly locks as well, surely.
Right now, there's some bloke on a farm in Pretoria who plays Curry Cup rugby. Who's about 6'9". Some massive Afrikaner farmer lad who could come here and turn himself into a top level player.
Yeah. And there's bound to be like a Georgian or Romanian prop in the Pro D2.
Or
A really good
they
underrated
love a
French prop.
Moldovan in the Pro D2.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. I think we need to box a little bit clever and scour around and not try to attract big names, but be a little bit smarter and do something a little bit different in the transfer market. But like I said, it is difficult for a club like Dragons to try and attract the
But
players.
you know, and I'm clearly slightly biased because he's my friend, but talked about like, the work that Sam Lana does,
Yeah,
identifying stats for players. Sam's got wealth of knowledge. There's other guys like him as well who the clubs could go to and say, look, what's out there? What might be able to work in our situation?
yeah. So, the names I mentioned, I don't hate any of those names that's been mentioned. I think Thomas Young would be a really good signing for 2 years at least, maybe three, I don't know. I think Wyn Jones would be good for experience. That is a British Lion, after all. Seb Davis, I don't dislike him as much as other people. I think he gets an unfair rap. And Tina Stabia, well, is he better than the fly-offs we got now? Well, maybe not better than Angus O'Brien, but I take him over Lloyd Evans. I know I said I shouldn't name names, but I'm sorry, I would. I would take him over
It's
Lloyd.
certainly better than Will Reed as well.
Yeah, yeah, I
No,
agree.
no
So
offense to Will.
no offense whatsoever, just our opinions.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the rumor mill done, and that's the news done. Let's talk about what happened on Sunday afternoon then. So Glasgow, the champions, they came to town, and we knew this was going to be a tough ask, didn't we? We saw the lineups, and we both said to each other, Gav, this could get ugly. It was Dragons 20, Glasgow 45. So a spirited showing from the Dragons, in fairness. Some positives to take out of it, especially the first half. But the facts are it's now 10 defeats in a row in the URC. No idea where the next win is coming from. I have to be
No.
honest. I really don't. I'm not saying that to be negative. I just cannot see a win for the rest of the season. Um, Gav, what were your thoughts on that game today? Because for me, looking at the two lineups beforehand, I felt that Glasgow team was at least 30, 35 points better than Dragons. What were your thoughts on what you saw on Sunday?
Well, I had when I saw the team sheets, I jokingly said to Johnny McGinty off the Scottish Rugby podcast, I said, if you don't score 70 points, you should fold as a club. I don't think it was quite as bad as that, but you know,
Yeah,
but it was a team that should beat us and should beat us convincingly, and they did beat us convincingly, and they scored 6 tries that day in the end.
7, I believe.
7, yeah. So convincingly, but it wasn't one way, and there was a period again. We can't sustain it when we had the ball and they couldn't get the ball and we were in control. The problem was the minute we lost the ball, we were in all kinds of trouble and we were losing the balls in what became increasingly preposterous ways as the game went on.
Yeah,
And this, but did we think we won 3 scrum penalties against international front row?
I know. And even my dad said to me, he said, bloody hell, we winning scrum penalties. He was shocked. Everyone was shocked. I thought Chris Coleman did pretty well, actually, in
Yeah,
the
no,
scrum.
he had a good game in the tight. I think Chris
He
Coleman
did.
did.
Yeah. Credit where it's due. We will always give credit where it's due on this pod.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, the scrum was one of the few positives that happened. It's an
Yeah.
interesting, isn't it? Because I came away from that thinking, okay, result as expected. We knew that. We just haven't got the quality or the strength in depth. We're
No,
hammered by injuries. That's just how it is at the moment, right? And we've been well beaten. But I don't look at it and think, oh, that was terrible. Oh, that
no.
was hopeless. And there have been many occasions when I've watched the Dragons and I've come away from Ronnie Prey thinking, oh, what's the point? Even though we were well beaten, I thought it wasn't that bad as I was expecting. Okay,
Well,
the bar is low. Let's be honest about that. The bar is so low now, it's practically touching the ground. We were well beaten, but I didn't think it was that bad, Gav. Or am I just
the,
being
no,
optimistic?
no,
Too
you're
optimistic?
right. You're right. They're the URC champions, and they
Yeah.
beat us convincingly. But they're the much stronger team than we did out.
Mm.
And I know bright sparks for us. I thought Hugh Anderson played very well.
Yes, I was going to talk to you about him. So your thoughts on Hugh Anderson? We're big fans of him on this pod, aren't we, Gav?
Oh
He's
yeah,
one for the future. He's going to be a star, isn't he? I think.
oh yeah. He's our best fullback now.
Yeah.
He's got something about him. He's always looking for the half gap. He's got such good vision, and
Mm.
he's willing to try stuff. There was a point in the second half, I think, when he's caught the ball and he's run it. There's a gap there, but instead of going for the gap, he's flicked it up over the top of the defence and run onto it.
Yeah.
He
Yeah, I know what you
created
mean.
about 50 meters of territory.
Yeah, yeah, definitely one of the bright sparks of this game. What did you make of Harry Wilson then? Because we've talked about Harry a lot on this pod. I think there's a player there. I've always said he needs regular game time. He got his start today. I thought he did all right. I
My
thought he
my
did all right.
notes, my notes, whenever I mention Harry Wilson's name is busy and unit. They're the two things I wrote down a lot. Because he gets round the park a lot. I think defensively, he's often found in the wrong place.
Mm.
But attacking, he's quick. He's a big lad. He can get over the gain line, and he's always looking for work.
Did you notice his passing was better this week as
It
well?
was, yeah.
I think he's worked. I think he's been told to work on his passing. Um, I've heard a few things coming out the club saying that they haven't been particularly happy with his passing. It's a work on for him. You could see that he has worked
Mm.
on his passing.
I thought he had a decent game. Of the
Yeah,
backs, Hugh Anderson was best, but he wasn't far behind for me.
no, not at all. Yeah. On the whole, then, as expected, but some green shoots. I think we
Uh,
just need to accept that this season is a complete write-off. We are going to finish last. This would be the first time in Dragons history that they'll finish bottom of the league. We'll be the first Welsh region to do that. It's tough at the moment, but we are where we are, Gavin.
uh,
And there's no relegation. Thankfully, that's the good news, isn't it? There's no relegation, so we don't
what
have to
was your
worry about that.
what was your take on the defence? Because it was sloppy for me, and two or three of the tries were preventable.
There was a few soft tries. I think it's becoming evident that since Philo left his position as defensive coach to become head coach, our defence has really fallen off a cliff.
Yeah.
And we were told at the Q&A that although we don't have a defence coach now, one of the academy coaches is helping out with Philo. So Philo is still
Mhm.
covering defence as well as head coach, but he's got an academy coach to help him. I think it shows, Gav, doesn't it?
It's
I think it shows. I was very disappointed with. It's very hard for the Dragons to stop power. So those drive and roll tries. That's what Glasgow do.
oh
That's
yeah,
what they're
yeah,
famed for. It's very difficult for any team, let alone the Dragons, to stop that. But some of the defense, the lines they cut, and some of those tries just looked a little bit too easy, didn't they?
yeah. There were a couple of times when the Argentinian winger just ran through space that shouldn't have been there, and
No.
a couple of times Jared had to run up the field to catch up.
Yeah. Yeah. Defense was very disappointing today. There were a couple of times, mine, where we turned the ball over on our own line. We did show a bit of doggedness. And I can't fault the effort, Gav. I can't fault the effort that these players are putting in. Like I said, it was a spirited performance. It's just not good enough against
A
teams like
side like
Glasgow.
that, no,
That's how it is.
they're one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah,
Reigning champions, second best team in the table, second best team in actuality, probably after Leinster.
yeah. And I'm no one for making excuses, but we have been hammered by injuries. We've got a
Yeah,
crippling injury list, and it's when that happens to a paper thin squad like ours, then it's going to be a struggle.
yeah,
And
we were bringing teenagers on in the second half.
I tell you, who wasn't a teenager who did come on though was Scott Williams,
Indeed, yes.
making this Dragons debut. Who, just to be clear, the Dragons have not signed Scott Williams. He's been actually signed on permit from Pontypool for this game, which I thought was quite interesting. Um, what did you make of him when he came on? I thought he did all right, Scott Williams.
Yeah, it was Scott Williams' performance, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He looked for the ball, a couple of rumbles defensively was solid.
So, would you like to see more of Scott Williams, the Dragons jersey, going forward then?
Well, it's not going to hurt, is it? I, I, I like uh, I like Ackerman.
Yes, you do. Yeah.
I like Joe Westwood, but their products, they're not quite complete yet. And Scott Williams, yeah, he's past his best, but he's been there, he's done it.
But he offers experience in the young team, doesn't he? And
Yeah.
I think this team needs a bit of leadership and a bit of experience. And I think at least Scott Williams will bring that. I mean, we're not going to get 2012 Scott Williams anymore.
No,
Forget that. But I
but
thought
look,
he was okay when he came off the bench. I thought he was pretty decent actually.
But look at the team we put out today, full of young men or guys perhaps not at that level. An Aaron Owen captain, didn't he? How old is he? 24, 25?
Mm, yeah,
Harry Wilson playing alongside him, 22. Hugh Anderson is he 19? Is he 20?
he's about that. I think he's 20 now, isn't he?
Yeah. It's a young team.
Yeah. On the whole, it was a young team, but I think what we saw today was the team hammered by injuries. Lots of kids, but also sadly, and again, I don't want to mention names, but maybe a couple of senior pros who just stand up to it at this level.
Uh,
That's where we are. That's just where we are.
I don't think the second row added anything to the game.
No, no,
Anyone who played second row today didn't really add anything to it.
no. No, disappointing, wasn't it? But like I said, the scrum was one of the few success stories, and I really didn't expect that to be the case, especially against Glasgow.
Yeah, but Jamie Batty as well, well regarded prop forward.
Yeah, yeah. So that was that then. Like I said, result as expected. Um, I don't think there's too much to say about that game unless you got any final thoughts, Gav.
No,
No.
it's slightly better than we hoped for.
Yes, and probably the best performance in 2025 when
Oh
you
yeah,
consider like Scarlets, Lions, Munster have been pretty rancid,
yeah.
uncompetitive, and even though we were well beaten, we were competitive in the first half at least. This wasn't a game where it was game over in the first half like we saw in the previous three games.
We
Unfortunately, in
kept,
the second half, we didn't fire a shot, and that's really disappointing.
as has happened quite a few times this season,
Indeed.
but we
Always
kept
seems
them
to be a drop
honest.
off. We
We
did.
kept them honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Gav, it's time for your Gwent Rugby Roundup. What's the latest?
So, well, we know Newport beat Carmarthen in the SRC, but there were no SRC other than that. But lots of rugby elsewhere. In the Premiership, Newbridge beat Narberth 28-24 at home, and a Gwent clean sweep in the Premiership. Cross Keys went away to Newcastle Emlyn and won 47-21. In the Championship, couple of postponements. Beddau versus Brynmawr was postponed due to a waterlogged pitch, and Glamorgan Wanderers versus Bedwas was postponed, I'm assuming for the same reasons. Penaltha beat Aberdare 31-24, and the Old Boys NSD sadly lost 7-31 at home to Talawine. Is that a local derby?
Ish, yeah, not far.
Local-ish, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, not
I
far at
know in
all.
Gwent most games are local derbies, but
Yeah.
moving into Division 1, Aberdare beat Blaenau Gwent beat Pontypool United 42-12. Blaenavon versus Dowlais was postponed. I've played at Blaenavon, that was definitely waterlogged. Newport High School Old Boys versus Abergrenny was also postponed. And Sengenedd 19, Monmouth 26. Into Division 2, where Blackwood beat Pill Harriers 33-17. Blaenau beat Cwmbran 22-17. Croeso Ceiliog edged Abercarn 12-10. Garndiffa versus Caldicot was postponed, and Ask beat Risca 62-8. Not a great day for the Risca fans there. Division 3, Killeen 13, Newport Saracens 27. Then a host again postponed, Chepstow versus Abertusog, Machen versus Fleur de Lis, and Oakdale versus New Panteg were all postponed. And Rumney beat Nantyglow 37-5, our Rumney as opposed to Cardiff Rumney. Into Division 4, Bedwellty 55, Fordside 14, Crumlin 27, Crickhowell 11. Gwynafed versus Whitehead was postponed. Pont-on-Fry 5, Llanillas 20, and RTB Ebervale 45, Betus 10. Into Division 5, Beaufort lost 14-27 at home to Hartridge. Derry lost at 23-10 at home to Tredegar Ironsides. Havod beat Abersychan 23-21, and Blackwood Stars beat Mago 23-9 away from home. And then into Division 6A, Girlin versus Trinant was postponed, and our friends at Tredegar, New Tredegar beat Cwmcarn United 64-5.
Lovely stuff. Okay, is that it for this week?
That is this week's grassroots rugby.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Gav. Okay, so that's that then. I want to talk about Wales now because it's been a pretty big week in Welsh rugby. There was a lot happening. So, having started 2025 with defeats against France and Italy, on Tuesday, the Welsh Rugby Union confirmed that Warren Gatland has left by mutual consent. So, we all know it's been a disastrous return for Warren Gatland. Since his return, he oversaw just 6 victories in 26 tests. He has a win ratio, Gav, of just 23% in his second stint. They do say not to go back, don't they? And I think Gatland is a
Yeah.
perfect example of that. Wales have also slumped to a lowest position of 12th in the world rankings behind Georgia. And this promotion relegation debate is raging even more now, ever since Wales have been slumping. Yeah, it's pretty grim, isn't it? So, Gav, Warren Gatland has gone. Right decision. How do you
Yeah,
feel about it?
no, it was the right decision. And I say that with the greatest level of respect for what Gatland did for Wales in his first spell on the British Lions. But whatever he was doing, I don't know what he was doing, and it wasn't working. And what I don't want to do is for a generation of young Welsh players to have been scarred by this.
Yeah.
Because he was throwing kids in and then dropping them, and they you know, kind of Morgan McKenzie and people like that must be like, what do I need to do? Nothing, mate. You just Mackenzie Martin, sorry.
Mackenzie Martin can win it.
Yeah, Mackenzie Martin can win it. Who's the other Cardiff back rower who looks
Alex
about
Mann.
Alex Mann, who looks about 12?
Yeah.
You know, those boys, they're decent players. They aren't international players. No, their fault they got selected. Well,
No.
the can win it maybe is an international player. He's just been hung up to dry a little bit. So yeah, it's the right thing, massively sadly. And what I really liked was the fact they had a plan.
Yeah.
He went and match area was imposed. I'm not convinced that's a long-term solution, but it's a plan, and having a plan is a good idea.
Yeah. We'll talk about that shout in a bit. When you look back at Wales, though, and particularly Warren Gatland, we all know that he was Wales's best coach, but now he's
Yeah,
going to go down as Wales's worst coach as well, simultaneously. It's quite strange how it's worked out.
that's
Do you?
Welsh rugby for you, I think.
It absolutely is. Do you think his legacy is tarnished by this second stint?
No,
You don't know?
he won 3 Grand Slams. He took 2 World semi-finals. He went on 2, not defeated Lions tours. No, he's one of the greatest coaches of the modern era, or the professional era, if not the
Do you,
greatest coach.
so you don't think this is a stain on his legacy for Wales then, like some people suggesting that it has tainted it a little bit? You
It's
don't think
it's
so?
it's a stain, but it's a stain on an otherwise largely pristine suit.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? People talking about Gatland. I honestly think he should have gone after the autumn series.
I
When they
agree.
when they had that review, that was the time to say, look, Warren, we're going to pull the plug on this. It's not working.
Yeah.
But they gave him his full backing, Gav. Ivy Tooney came out and said, Warren's going to lead us to success. Those were the words that she said. They were fully behind him. 2 games late, he's gone. It's a terrible look for the WRU. I mean, let's be honest, they've been giving terrible looks for years, haven't they? But it's not a good look for the WRU.
Mhm.
And also, I'm not surprised he's gone, but the timing of it, I'm very surprised they pulled the plug during the tournament. I thought they would have waited until after. So, whilst I'm not surprised Gatland's gone, I was slightly surprised of the timing that they did it mid-tournament. Were you surprised by that or not?
No, yeah, I think if they'd waited longer, it'd have got worse.
Yeah.
I think what the WRU want is Welsh fans to think, oh, there's something to look forward to. There's nothing to look
Mm.
forward to at the minute. But we aren't going to beat Ireland on Saturday. I'm not that insane. But what if we just perform a bit better? What if it's not 50 points? what if we put some rugby together? That's going to give us something positive. I don't think Gatland had anything in him to do anything different.
There's a lot of people saying, and this was the mainstream rugby media's view as well. Well, Gatland's not responsible for, the shit show of Welsh rugby. He's not,
He isn't.
responsible for all the problems. And that's fine, but two things can be true at the same time. Like,
Yeah,
the fact is, yeah, he's not responsible for all the problems of Welsh rugby. That point has been hammered home to death. But also, I'm sorry, Gav, you can't survive 14 test defeats in a row, mate. No matter
but
who you are, you cannot survive that. That's simply unsustainable, isn't it?
he's also responsible for the players he puts on that field.
Yeah.
And he didn't select the right players in the right positions.
No.
And that showed. I like Ben Thomas. I think Ben Thomas is a great player.
You're a
I,
big fan of Ben Thomas, I
I,
know.
I,
Yeah.
I really like Ben Thomas. He's the kind of player I love to watch. Ben Thomas isn't the 10.
No.
He,
We all
he
knew
is
that.
he isn't the 10 as long as the sun's in the sky. And he's a 12. He's a
Yeah.
creative 12, but he isn't a 10. He doesn't orchestrate the backs around him. He's an individualistic player. So
Yeah.
play him at 12. But then also play other 12s in essentially, I think, didn't we end up with, well, we had 3 12s playing, didn't we?
We did. Yeah,
We
against
had
Italy.
Ben
Yeah.
Thomas at 10, and we had not Baldwin, Owen Watkin at 12, which is right because he's a 12.
Yeah.
And we had Joe Roberts at 13, who's also a 12.
It's
It's
just it just doesn't make sense, does it? And you know, Warren hasn't helped himself.
no,
He has not helped himself. He hasn't helped himself with the tactics, the outdated tactics, I have to say. The selections, like I said, the Ben Thomas experiment was a failure.
bringing
Um,
Howley back.
Bringing Howley back. Remember the Corey Hill debacle
Yeah,
with the debt collecting and everything? Um, Massive PR disaster for Gatland. So
yeah,
naive to
making
say,
him captain.
yeah, and then to say, oh, I didn't realize it was going to cause this much uproar, or I didn't know it was going to cause this much hurt. I was like, are you serious, mate? The guy threatened a woman and her family in her own home, And yeah, okay, he apologized for it, but only after he'd been selected. So
Yeah.
that was a PR disaster. It was felt by a lot of players that he didn't support them enough during the strikes. Remember the strike action, the negotiations up in the Vale? There were
hmm
some players who felt that Gatland didn't really put his full support behind the players. The Telegraph columns that he was writing, which I always thought was weird for a current head coach to be writing critical Daily Telegraph columns. The lack of responsibility that he's taken. It's always the region's fault, for creating losing environment. So he's blaming the league. When they had that review, he was saying, well, some of these guys haven't experienced what was it, a winning environment or winning culture. So how can they, you know, talk about that kind of thing. So I just think you haven't helped yourself, Warren. And I love Gatland. I'll always appreciate what he did for Welsh rugby, and we should all be thankful and appreciate what he did for Welsh rugby. But this second stint, there's no getting away from it, Gav. It was an absolute disaster,
Oh,
total disaster.
apart from the win against Australia, which was lovely,
Oh, that
and,
was yeah,
and
yeah,
one of my favourite Gatland games. Oh yeah, awful. The
yeah.
performance against France, terrible. Performance against Italy, worse than that.
Wales have got to the point now where they've become borderline unwatchable. It was awful against France. It was even worse against Italy. No attack in shape. And speaking of no attack in shape, Rob Howley will not be part of the Wales coaching team going forward. That's the
Yes,
other
which
part
is
of the
right.
news.
Which
Oh,
is right as well.
it's absolutely right. Now he's still under contract with WRU, so that's probably the reason why they haven't sacked him because they don't want to pay out. He's still going to be involved with the pathways and Wales under 20s, I believe. So he's very much going to be in the background working with the WRU, but he's not going to be part of this current coaching setup. And again, Rob Howley, a player who I really admired when I was a kid. Fantastic scrum half, Gav, wasn't he, Rob
Oh
Howley?
yeah,
Terrific scrum half. And he played his part in success as well with Wales, the coaching team. But it's right that he was moved on as well, wasn't it?
yeah. We need a new coaching team. We need new people in. We need new ideas.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I do think as well, though, as much as I appreciate Gatland, I do think that Sean Edwards had a massive part in Wales'
Yeah.
success, more than we probably realise. Because I made the point on Rap the other week. What has Warren Gatland won without Sean Edwards? I'm pretty sure that all his success came with Sean Edwards at his side. I
He
might be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure, well, at
he
least
won the Six
99%.
Nations with Ireland,
Gatland
didn't
did,
he?
did he? I
Yeah,
don't think he did.
didn't
Did
he?
he? I don't
I'm,
think he
I'm
did.
I might be making this up.
I don't think he did. Oh, I have to be corrected, but I don't think he
No,
did.
so he won European Cup with Wasps with
Yeah,
Sean Edwards, didn't he?
he did. Yeah.
Lions stuff wasn't with Edwards, but other than that, I think you're right. I'm just looking up now.
I'm pretty sure he did not win.
Oh
I
yeah,
might be wrong.
oh no, I'm probably wrong. I make stuff up all the time. Uh, no, yeah, you're right. He didn't win anything. He won 3 premierships in the Heineken Cup at so he has won something about Sean
Sean.
Edwards. Sean Edwards. He won the Air New Zealand Cup with Waikato in 2007
There we
or
go.
2006 rather.
Yeah. I was just looking here that in Gatland's last year with Ireland, they finished on the same points as England, but England were winners.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of the success he had came with Sean Edwards by his side. So I,
Everything but one Air New Zealand Cup.
oh, there you go. So Gatland's gone, Howley has gone, but he's still very much in the background.
Yeah. Well,
The
Gatland hasn't gone either, has he? He's still on contract.
I think
He's
he's on
on
gardening leave, is
he's
it?
on
They call
gardening
it.
leave. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So the WRU have turned to Cardiff's head coach, Matt Sherratt. He's going to take over as interim head coach for the remaining 3 games of the Six Nations. I think if you were going to pick a coach out of the 4 regions, just my personal view, I don't know if you agree, you probably would lean towards Sherratt, even
He's
though Dwayne Peel has a higher win rate percentage than Sherratt, but he has been in charge of more games. So, how did you feel about that when Matt Sherratt was announced?
So I didn't really know what was going on for most of the day because I was working and on a when I'm working on site, I barely look at my phone. I don't get a chance. I work fairly solidly for 12 hours and I look at my phone when I'm on my way back to the hotel.
Yeah,
And I looked at my phone and like my group chats were full of stuff. And then I saw Matt Sherratt had been selected. I was like, oh, it's interesting. And yeah, and I think it's right. No one within the Welsh setup could have done it.
no, I think a lot
Yeah,
of people were thinking that Howley were going to take charge, wasn't it? That's
yeah.
what a lot of people were thinking. I did think that at the time. I thought, oh, they're just going to give it to Howley because he's taken over before.
But Sherratt, I like his rugby. I'm not meant to say this as a Dragons fan, but I like the way Cardiff play rugby. He's got a definite idea.
Yeah,
And he's already done something decisive, hasn't he? In bringing in the foam centre in English rugby, Max Llewellyn, bringing in Gareth Anscombe, an experienced 10, who is a 10, and bringing in Jared Evans, another 10, who's actually a 10.
yeah. I think he's curried favour with a lot of Welsh supporters already by making those changes.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Because let's be honest, Gareth Anscombe and Maxwell should have been in that squad from the get-go. They should
Yeah.
have been there.
Who's a better 10 than Anscombe in the Welsh squad? No one. Who's a better 12 currently in the Welsh squad than Llewellyn? No one. And
No,
I
I
love
think
Nick.
it's good. Yeah.
I love Nick Tompkins. I proudly wear his training kit most weekends when I'm coaching myself. But oh my God, he's become even more chaotic, and we can't be having it. We need players who just run straight lines.
Yeah. Although Sam Larner says he's not as chaotic as people says, mate, on Twitter. He
Yeah,
did make a point of saying he's not chaotic. He is chaotic, though, isn't he?
he
Let's be
is. Yeah,
honest. He is. Sorry,
I think
Sam, but we disagree
Sam's
on that
right
one.
99 times out of 100. He's not right this time.
Yes, I agree. Bless him. Um, I'm. Do you know what? It's weird because I was dreading the game this weekend, Wales Ireland. I really was. I'm actually looking forward to it now. I'm slightly intrigued because I think this is a no-lose situation for Matt Sherratt. Because if he does well for Wales and he wins a game, his stock is right up there now. And he's put himself in the shop window. Like clubs and nations are going to pay attention. If he does really well with Wales and wins a game, his name is out there now, you know? So he's put himself out there and he'll gain even more respect in the rugby world. And if we lose, fine. That's what we expect. Nobody expects Wales to win any of these last three remaining games. So if we do lose, no one's going to be saying, "Oh, bloody hell, Matt Sherratt." It's not his fault. You could
No,
argue he's on a hide into nothing. So I can understand why he's taken this position. It's a no-lose situation for him because if he doesn't do well, fine, not his fault. Nobody's going to be laying blame at his door. If he does do well, then that's even better. His reputation rises even more.
yeah, he's either going to come out of this smelling of roses, or he's going to come out of this, oh, thanks for helping out, Matt. We really needed that.
It was interesting watching Cuthbert's podcast came up on my YouTube feed. I don't normally listen or watch it, but I did watch this one. And he was saying that he's got a feeling he'd be made permanent Wales coach. And I'm watching this thinking, well, he's just announced, or Cardiff just announced, he signed a new long-term deal. But he was making a point that that's probably been signed way before he agreed to be Wales coach. And maybe that's Cardiff's way of saying, well, if you want him, you're going to have to stump up. But
I
it's interesting. That could be Cuthbert putting two and two together and coming up with eight. But,
yeah,
you know,
I think Wales have got greater ambitions than Matt Sherratt. No offense to Matt Sherratt.
he's a good coach, though, Gav. I do rate Matt Sherratt highly. And the fact he's got this job and the WRU have turned to him show that he is respected up in the WRU.
Would you rather have Matt Sherratt or would you rather have Michael Cheika?
Oh, God, Michael Checker, but he's not
Yeah,
available at the moment, is he?
he is.
Not
He's
right
av-
now. He's still
he's
Leicester.
he's available from June.
Yeah, but I talk about right now, in the
Oh
moment.
no, that's what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
Shearer right now is the right person, 100%, no doubt there.
Short term, yeah.
Longer term, I'm hoping the WI have greater ambition. Michael Checker, Franco Smith,
Yeah.
Ronan O'Gara.
Well, he doesn't want the job. He's made
No,
that
no,
pretty
he's made
clear.
it clear. Yeah, yeah.
He distanced himself well away from Wales. He said, well, I'm paraphrasing now, but he basically said, Ireland and England, he would like to coach, but Wales, he's just not interested in Wales.
But you know
But
that I want the level of ambition,
yeah,
and I'm sure Michael Checker wants a Wallabies job. But let's see how much money would turn his head.
yeah. The only thing that puts me off Michael Checker, I'll be honest, I think Michael Checker's a fantastic coach. Got a lot of respect for him. Very rich guy as well, because he works in the fashion industry.
He does.
And he's not short of a few. He doesn't even need
No,
to be coaching rugby.
no.
He could just work on fashion. He's absolutely loaded, the guy. Multi-millionaire by all counts. The only thing that puts me off Checker, if you look at his track record, Gav, he's not a guy that commits to long-term projects.
He's not. But I thought that. But the thing, right, we take him, he comes in, he stabilizes. We go to the World Cup, we get out to our group, we get knocked out in the quarters. I take it.
Yeah.
I would
We
take
did a
that.
brilliant job with Australia. Remember when he took them over at
Mhm.
short notice? Was it the 2015 World Cup?
Yeah,
Oh, I can't remember the name of the coach they got rid of now. But he came in, gone to the final. He's done a great job with Argentina as well. He'd be really good for Wales. I just question his commitment.
he got
I would question
Lebanon to a
commitment.
quarter final of the World Rugby League Cup.
Oh, there we are then. Yeah,
Yeah,
cracking coach.
yeah, and yeah, but it just he takes us to the next World Cup. Then he goes, "Yeah, thanks, boys. I'm off now. I'm off to coach Kazakhstan's netball team, or because he does like a project." But if he's stabilized us and we've done all right, we just become a better thing, and then we can get someone else in, and it's not a fire sale, and it's all a bit more
Yeah. No,
measured.
I see your point. I am a big fan of Michael Checker, but like I said, when you look at his record, he doesn't really commit to long-term projects. And I
No,
think Wales need a long-term coach with a project and a vision. I'm not sure Michael Checker is that, but I really do rate him highly as a coach. The two front runners for the role, is Franco Smith is one of them. Now, he gave a very interesting interview. I don't know if you watched this on Premier Sports because I was at the game, obviously. He gave a
I
pre-match
did, and I had
interview.
to walk my dogs around the match, so I could have walked the dogs and watch the game.
So he gave a pre-match interview to Lauren Jenkins, who grilled him about. He didn't exactly say no. He seemed pretty open to this. He said, "I like to coach international rugby again. You never know." I've watched the clip now several times. He wants that job, Gav. I'm
Oh
convinced.
yeah,
I'm convinced he's very interested.
and
He
I would
didn't
take
distance
him.
himself away, but he didn't exactly, you know. I just got a feeling. I think he wants that job.
Yeah, I would
100%.
take him. There's another guy whose name I'd written it down. It's completely fallen out of my head now. Who's coaching in South Africa? Who used to be who was going to take over at Ulster and then didn't take over at Ulster. Who's being talked about as well.
I'm not sure what that is.
That one's
The other name that's been mentioned a lot as well is Simon Easterby,
yes, I saw
who's
that.
coaching Ireland. A lot
Yeah,
of people have said, why on earth would he leave his gig at Ireland to come and coach Wales? I mean, obviously he's got a connection to Wales. He lives in Wales. His wife, Sarah Elgan, Welsh.
yeah,
Very good coach. Done good work at the Scarlets. Good
yeah.
work at Ireland.
Still lives in Wales.
Yeah. Cowbridge, I believe, I think.
Yeah,
Someone
it's
mentioned
definitely
Cowbridge.
down in the Vale, I would say.
Yeah. How would you feel about Simon Easterby as Wales
Yeah,
head
I'd like
coach?
that.
I think that's a very good shout, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other names on the betting for it. So Checker is favourite, followed by Brad Moore.
Oh, Brad
Uh,
Moore, right? Yeah.
yeah, Franco Smith, Simon Easterby,
hmm
Steve Tandy. That can go away.
No, not for
Uh,
head coach, no.
no. Yeah, I'm trying to find the other guy's name. The South African fella. But yeah,
Razi Erasmus. It's not Razi, is it?
it's not Razi, no. It's also other names being mentioned, according to the credible news source of Wales Online, is Stuart Lancaster.
That's an interesting one because Alex Bywater, Daily Mail, he wrote an article saying that because he's been sacked now by Bastard 92,
He
that he would
has.
bring him in as like a DOR. And he got absolute pelters for it on social media. But actually, I don't think that's a bad shout, you know. I honestly don't think that'll be a bad shout for the WRU to bring in Stuart Lancaster. I don't think that's as bad as what some people were saying.
Franz Ludiker is the guy's name.
Right, okay. It's the first time I've heard him in the mention for this Wales job.
Yeah,
I'll be honest.
the first person who said it to me was a South African. So, but then he is on the betting. He's 14-1 currently.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting. I think for me, it's got to be out the two people, Franco Smith and Simon Easterby. I think they're the strongest candidates at this moment in time. Although Michael Checker is a strong candidate, I'm just not sure for the reasons I've already mentioned. But for me,
Yeah,
I would like to see us go for Franco Smith or. So if you had a choice then out of those three, Franco Smith, Simon Easterby, or Michael Checker, who would you prefer?
Easterby, I think.
Yeah. Do you think you'll leave Ireland though? Because a lot of people are questioning why you would. But
Head head
it's
coach job
yeah,
in a country he lives in a country he's played in.
yeah.
You know, and with a Welsh wife.
I don't think the Wales job is as totally undesirable as people are making out. Like, I don't think it's as desirable as it used to be. You know, I think it's not as attractive a job as it might have been 2, 3 years ago now because of the obvious struggles and the politics in Welsh rugby. But I don't think people are like, oh, why would you want to take Wales job? I still think it does carry a certain
Well,
prestige about it, you
being
know?
the head coach of a national team in a rugby literate country on the whole that gets big crowds to a top class stadium.
Mm,
You, yeah, it's a big job to take on. It's a bit like
yeah.
Newcastle United in football, isn't it? Without
Oh,
the
yeah, I know what you're
well,
saying. Newcastle are a big club, yeah.
but it's like a club that perhaps are underperforming historically. Without the large amounts of Saudi Arabian money.
Cash, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. No,
But
I get what you're saying, yeah.
it's like those sleeping giant roles.
Yeah. No, I get your point. I get your point. They've got to get this appointment right, though, the WRU. It's
Oh
crucial
yeah,
now. So hopefully they will make the right decision. But there's some interesting names being linked to it. Like I said, for me, it should be either Franco Smith or Simon Easterby, but we shall see. In the meantime, I just hope Matt Sherratt now can. I'm paraphrasing Abby Tierney now when I say this, but she said in her press conference that hopefully he can bring some hope to Welsh rugby.
yeah,
She said something along those lines, if I remember correctly. Can't remember the exact phrase. I just want us to play nice rugby and be watchable. And
yeah.
if Sherratt can, look, I don't expect us to win any games for the rest of the tournament,
No,
but can we at least be competitive and have some hope? And hopefully he'll sort out our attack, because the one thing about Masha, he's a very good attack coach. You mentioned earlier about Cardiff.
yes,
They are good to watch. We may not like them, but in attack, they are good to watch. This is part of the reason why they get good crowds at the Arms Park. It's not because they're playing winning rugby.
oh,
It's because they play attractive rugby. People buy into it. They give it a good crack. They're bringing the youngsters through. This is what I want to see from Wales. I just want us to be watchable again. I want us to have a good crack at Ireland, and let's have a good attack and not be so bloody toothless. Because under
that's why.
Gatland and Howley, it was just so toothless.
That's why I like Ben Thomas as a player, because I think Matt Sherratt has coached him in such a way that he plays with a freedom that's
Mm,
not typical in 12s in World Rugby now.
yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. And Sherratt has got a little bit of experience in coming in during a crisis, doesn't he? The story changes all the time depending on who you speak to. But there was the story that he came into Cardiff, and it was like, what was it, 8 players, 3 coaches, something silly
Yeah,
like that. And he's built a decent squad, and they are competing, and he's playing good rugby again. So he's coming into Wales, a low ebb. And Sherratt did say that in his press conference, it's a similar situation when I was at Cardiff, coming in low ebb, picking people up and giving the confidence and the freedom to play rugby. And I just want to see Wales give it a crack. And it'd be great if we could just score a few tries and give the Welsh public something to cling on to. Because, like I
I
said, I
would
think
just like
Wales
to
would be
watch some
borderline
decent rugby.
unwatchable. Yeah,
Yeah, oh no, not even borderline, mate. I'm genuinely unwatchable.
yeah,
Just really, really, really poor rugby.
yeah, yeah. No, I agree. So I say good luck to him. Wishing Matt Sherratt all the very best. Um, let's hope he can turn things around and give us some hope, some green shoots. Because I don't think he can get any miss at the moment, can it? With the style of rugby we're playing and the results, like I said, it's a no-lose situation for him. That's why he's taken the job.
Yeah,
No one's going to blame him if we lose the remaining 3 games. But if he actually wins a game and we play good rugby, his reputation's only going to increase.
I don't
So
want him to take over permanently, though. I need more ambition.
no, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. So the question is, will we win another game in the Six Nations? Has this given you a little bit more hope? The fact, he's
No,
recalled Anscombe Llewellyn and you
no.
won't play Benetton. You're still not hopeful at all that we'll win a game.
Who are we going to beat?
Well, everyone talks about England. They say that's the game that we could win.
Yeah, I agree. We aren't going to, though.
Wales, England, Gav, in Cardiff. The English, they don't like coming down here. So there's an
Yeah.
opportunity there. I mean,
I
we're
think
still
England
not
have looked
favourites,
good.
are we?
I think England have looked good in both
Yeah.
the games I've seen them in, though. So,
Well, they got I talked about this on the Rap podcast. They got absolutely hammered after their defeat to Ireland. And I thought they were decent. I thought there was a lot of positives, but the
I
English
think they
rugby
pl
media hammered them.
I think they played well against one of the best rugby teams of the last 30, 40 years,
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. Be interesting, wouldn't it? It's England Scotland this weekend, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be interesting because they'll want to finally get a win over Scotland, because Scotland have had their number now, haven't they, for a number of years, winning the Calcutta Cup, so they'll be keen to
yeah.
get
Well,
revenge.
I think it's five. Yeah. So the last time,
So 4 wins in a row, I think.
it's 5 years since they last won, because the last time they beat them, yeah, it was 6 years ago. Because I remember the draw game was the year before COVID, and my mate Nick, who I ended up doing the charity game for, passed away. I just remember despite being an England fan, his absolute delight at how batshit mental that 31 all game was.
Oh, that was one of the best ever games in Six Nations. That was so
He,
good.
even
So, so
and
good.
when England drew, he said, "I don't want that to happen. I want Scotland to win it."
And that was all because Finn Russell turned around to Gregor Townsend and said, "Fuck you, mate. We're not playing by your rules." He completely ignored, didn't he, his match sort of advice and instructions. He just went completely off on one Finn Russell. They completely ignored what Townsend told him in changing room apparently and just went at it and could have and should have won.
Mm,
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant game. Who do you think will win the Six Nations now? Because I
Ireland.
guess Ireland are still, with France's disappointing defeat to England. The amount of times they dropped the ball, bloody hell, it's very unlike France, wasn't it?
Ireland will win the Grand Slam.
You think they'll win the Grand Slam?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I
I,
wouldn't bet against that.
I, I think they play the modern professional game of rugby in a very successful way. Don't like it much, but
No,
it's disruptive in defense. It's it's well structured in attack. It's very hard to play against.
yeah, no, spot on. In terms of the Dragons, then their next game is away to Zebra. Zebra, who of course beat Edinburgh away on Friday night. Hats off to them. Hats
Oh
off
yeah,
to them because this is a team that doesn't know its future. A lot of uncertainty. They don't know where they're going to be playing. The franchise might be taken out to Parma. There's a lot of uncertainty. Fair play to them, Gav. They have a really good season, didn't they? They deserve to be above us, no doubt.
you know they've been much better side than us. Much better side than us.
Yeah. How do you fancy our chances out in Zebra?
Oh, we aren't winning up there.
It's
No.
just difficult to say. Like I said, I don't want to be negative. I just give my honest opinions. But so Zebra, they're 15th at the moment, 20 points. Dragons are rock bottom with 8 points. I can't see us catching them up or overtaking them, Gav. Can you? I think that's it.
No, we aren't catching them up, are we?
No. Ulster are 14th with 23. They've had a very poor season by their
Yeah,
standards. I know they're going through a rebuild. They're playing more youngsters than normal. They've had financial issues, but it's just how to accept you're going to finish last, didn't we? And Zebra will be licking their lips, won't they, at that prospect of us going there. It's hard to
yeah.
see a win.
No, I think they're playing well, Zebra. And they could have beaten Cardiff if it hadn't been the first game of the season, if it wasn't for the worst 30 minutes of rugby I think any side has ever played.
Oh, they were absolutely wretched in that first half, weren't they? Absolutely stinking. But to be fair, in that second half, if they took their chances, they probably
Yeah,
could have beaten Cardiff. But look at who they've beaten. They've beaten Munster, Ospreys, Ulster, and Edinburgh. Plus, they lost 3 games by 5, 1, and 1.
yeah,
You got to take your hats off to them. Fair play to them, and they deserve a bit of success. Their supporters, but I guess we're the new Zebra now.
yeah. Well, the new Dragons, the new Zebra.
That's where we are. That's how low we've sunk. It hurts saying that, it really does, but
It's realistic, though, isn't it?
that's where we are. That's where we are. So I didn't want to end on a negative note, but I just I usually like ending on a positive note, but no, we'll see what happens in that Zebra game. But no doubt they are heavy favourites for that one. Right, I think we'll wrap it up there. That'll be it
Sure.
for this week. Gavin, thank you very much for joining me as always. Thank you to our friends at Riverside Sports Bar for their continued support of our podcast. We'll be back soon, but until then, thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next one. Ta-ra.